I'm Fritz and I'm co-managing Kuzikus Wildlife Reserve together with my brother, Berend. And Kuzikus Wildlife Reserve is a private reserve outside an official park area, but on agricultural land in Namibia.
Yeah, actually, Kuzikus was one of the first privately declared nature reserve already in 1964 by the predecessor. He had a big liking for wildlife and he invested in wildlife and wanted to keep safe the last remaining Kalahari birds who were roaming here in Kuzikus. So my parents, they bought Kuzikus and then opened the whole area inside Kuzikus here, just for wildlife.
It's outside a national park area because much of the research and conservation efforts in the past have been focusing on national parks. But now what's interesting is to focus on biodiversity conservation also outside formally proclaimed national parks. And there's just a huge potential outside official parks. For example, on agricultural land. This vast area, it's 40% of Namibia. And Kuzikus could be one of those example cases of a former cattle farm transforming into a wildlife-based system on the basis of ecotourism. And so the Wild Drone project is part of our mission, Kuzikus Mapping Project. So it contains not only the mapping that has been now done within the scope of the Wild Drone project, but also previous mappings. All this data together now spans 10 years and we've seen an increase and an optimization of drone technology. Very interesting to see that and to witness that. And now we can fly at an amazing resolution. We can create a digital model, a digital twin of the ecosystem. And this model, this digital twin, shall help us managing this ecosystem in a much more efficient way. It all started with drones being used for counting animals, but it's much more than that. We try to count everything. So it's a digitalization of the ecosystem to create an inventory of ecosystem features. So most prominently, of course, are the different wildlife species. So rhinos, zebras, giraffes, all the mammals that have been roaming here before people started using the land for commercial farming.
And also over the years how the populations develop. So it's very, very interesting to know accurate number. We focus on wildlife, on game, on animals, but equally interesting is the trees and the vegetation, which haven't been done. Even now in Namibia, the whole development of charcoal production, farmers have to submit how many trees or how many bushes, what's your vegetation cover, how does it look like? And they're not getting permits if they can't show accurately how many trees or bushes they have. So I think also there, the application of this remote sensing and automated counting, I think has a huge potential.
Other aspects of that wood, for example. We have these camel thorn trees that are amongst the slowest growers in the world of trees. So one can distinguish, for example, this dead wood from the camel thorn tree to dead wood from other trees that are faster growing. And that becomes important when you look at resources and when you have to manage carefully resources, because there's also a development happening in Namibia where camel thorn wood is in fact being exported as high quality firewood. But such slow growing trees, of course, is a question: how much do we have? What is sustainable? And this is also where a high resolution drone data set could immensely help. But what is needed is in fact a database with all the verified ground truths that lives and that becomes better and better and better, and that also trains then the algorithms that are performed on the database. And that's, I cannot state this enough, it's in fact the domain expert, the people on the ground that do the ground truthing to maintain and to uphold and to make better these reference data sets. So ideally, if we look at trees, we have thousands of trees that are verified, and only then we can calibrate the ground data set. How good is it in fact as a ground truth? And then on this basis, we can train the algorithms. The effective anti-poaching strategies that we are using is first and foremost boots on the ground. Boots on the ground is being out in the bush with the rhinos.
I think the biggest measure for anti-poaching for Kuzikus is involvement of tourists. So we do this patrolling with tourists, where we do this rhino tracking, and this gives us a very good idea about the population. You always have a constant update of which rhino is there. There's constant activity without disturbing the rhinos. So Fritz and me have a very good idea about nearly every individual character of rhino walking around.
So we have this special setting here in Kuzikus where we have a lot of open savanna landscape, not so much bush, and we can safely approach the rhinos without disturbing them. Although it's not easy to find them, so we rely on expert tracker knowledge of the Sun people, and then we can, in a unique experience, get close to the black rhino. And effective anti-poaching measures are a combination of this boots on the ground, being close to the rhino, but also using technology. as much as we can. So using a combination of everything, of rhino tracking dogs, of Sun Bushman expert knowledge, of us being out in the bush, of cameras, we've already had great success in finding a rhino carcass. In that case, it was not poached, but it was great to consult the data set and find a rhino, and for us a huge relief. So far it's been a huge success. The mapping project, the digitalization, could also help in establishing new territories and calculating the carrying capacity on other farms.
Above all, it's about preserving wilderness. That's priceless.